Welcome back to the Gamekeeper's Cottage Diaries. Welcome back to a very damp and grey Gamekeeper's Cottage in early February. I'm sheltering down here under the overhang of the stables just to have a quick look through this weekend's gardening task, which is going to be some more hedge planting. So for those of you that remember back to a year ago, and I'll link to the clip in the description, we planted 100 native hedging plants in the back garden. We got space for a few more, so we have bought another 30 plants. Again, it's hawthorn based, but we have gone for some different ones this time. So I'm going to start with just going through exactly what we've bought. So let's have a quick look, if I can keep out the rain. So, as I said, the main part is again going to be hawthorn. We've got 15 of those, so that's half of the 30 plants that we'll be planting. We've then got 6, I think it is, blackthorn as a secondary plant. And then the rest of the plants are actually new this time. So we have 2 crab apples, you can see here, and then next to it the very tall and funnily enough willowy looking plants are actually willows. And then next to them we've got these 2 little oaks that we are going to dot in to different places. And then moving along, we have a pair of Gelder roses with absolutely massive root balls. These are really feathery, so that should be fun planting. And then at the end here we have a couple of spindle. So I'm going to wander around now to the back garden and we'll show you where we're going to be planting these. So here we are in the back garden, and obviously this is where we planted a lot of the hedging last year, down this back fence. But we left this 3-meter area, long area here. There's a plane going overhead, so let's just wait for that to go. So as I was saying, we left a 3-meter long area here, which is where we are going to plant the majority of the hedge plants this time. There are a couple here in the corner that were leftovers from the more mature plants that we bought when we did the gate hedge, but we will also try and put a few more in here just to fill this area out. And then after that we will pretty much have a hedge running along the whole of the back garden with this nice wooden edging in front of it. I'll now just go back round the other side of the house to show you where we're going to put the remainder of the plants. I'm back round in the stable yard. Fortunately it's stopped raining now. So the last few remaining plants that we have, however many we got left, we will be filling in a few of the gaps in this area once we have dug out some of the weeds and just tidied it up a bit. For definite, I would like to put one of the oaks here, and we'll see what else we've got left that we can fit in. But now I'm probably going to leave the planting until tomorrow, as it's getting on in the afternoon and the weather it just keeps on starting to rain, but the weather is meant to be drier tomorrow. It's fairly early the next morning and the weather is a lot better today, although it is still very wet underfoot from the last couple of days' rain. But today I'm hoping to crack on with planting the hedge plants. So yesterday, in amongst all of the rain showers, I was able to mark out where I'm going to put the individual plants. If you can make out the metal spikes. So the first thing I'm going to do is go around to the stables and I'm going to soak the roots for half an hour or so. Then I'm going to come back and start the planting. So half an hour has passed and I'm back out here with my selection of hedge plants, and it's time to start the planting. But before we do, those of you who remember last year's hedge planting video will remember that we dipped the roots into a mycorrhizal fungal gel. This time, because we've got less plants, I don't have the gel, but I do have some of the fungal pellets, and I will be putting those into the bottom of each of the holes that I dig. So I'm going to crack on now and start with the planting. I'm not actually going to film it because I'm pushed for time and the weather is forecast to rain later, so I'm just going to crack on and I'll show you the results later. It's about 4 hours later, and after a morning's hard work, we have 19, I think it is, hedge plants planted in this area. So that has pretty much covered up the whole area. So now we have a hedge that runs all the way along the back of the garden, and we'll revisit this area in a couple of months' time and just see how they've grown. I've still got about another 10 of these plants left to plant that I'm going to be planting in different areas, but that's a job for tomorrow. For the rest of the day, I'm going to be doing some more of the digging out of pathways, just to cut down on the amount of lawn mowing that we need to do. So I'll come back with some progress on that later on. It's mid-morning of the next day, and the rain, which was fairly heavy earlier this morning, has finally let off. So I'm hoping to get a bit more work done this morning. So as a reminder, yesterday we planted all of the plants in this border area, and I did some more work as well. So I did a bit more path preparations, digging out what will be like a main path out from the house. And I'm not sure how well it will show up on camera, but as you can possibly see, I also did some preparations for the remainder of this path, just preparing the soil to dig out later. That will go round to there and into the gap. I will also be extending the path we've got here out a little bit to meet, and we will be doing a bit of realignment of the edging that is here, and we will end up with a slightly larger border here in front of the hedge once we've moved those old stone edgings. But now I'm going to try and plant the remaining 9 or 10 hedge plants that I've got left over. So I've just wandered round to the stable yard, and I have just put the remaining hedge plants that I've got into a bucket of water just to soak their roots for half an hour while I do some preparations. But the plan is to plant a couple of the plants in this area here. We'll have to have a bit of a tidy up to work out where they can go, but we should have some gaps in here, I think, where we can plant at least 2 or 3 of them, and then we'll put the others in other areas around the property. But I'm going to do a little bit of tidying up in here, I think, and then we'll do some planting. Apologies in advance, but it's really too damp and cold to be worrying about filming at the same time of working, so I'm just going to be showing you what I'm doing. So this is the first of the 2 plants that I'm going to be planting in this area, which is an oak tree. As you can see, that is one of the previous hedge plants that we planted a couple of years ago, that's now up to about 4.5 to 5 foot tall, so hopefully this will fill in the gap. The rain is just starting to come down quite heavily again, but I'm going to carry on. This is the second plant and the final one in this area. So this is a willow. So with those 2 planted, it should eventually fill in the gap of the hedge here. So we've got this old established plant at the end here, and then we've got the start of the plants that we planted 2 years ago. A couple of hawthorns at the end there, I think. But eventually this will be a lot more enclosed in. Now I'm going to move round to the back garden and just plant the remaining plants that we've got. So let's have a look what we've got left. We've got this large Guelder rose here. And then we've got this selection of about 7 plants there. Most of them are hawthorn. And I think we've probably got 1 spindle there I can see. And a couple of blackthorns. So they are going to be going probably somewhere in the edge of the vegetable garden, filling in a few gaps around where the greenhouse is. But I'll get back to you. As you can see on the screen now, it is rather wet, so I'm going to carry on planting away and I'll update you later. I'm round here in the back garden now, and I made the decision, due to the size of it and its root ball, to plant the Guelder rose in here in the breakfast room border, so that will hopefully eventually fill that gap. It's still raining quite hard, so I'm going to take a bit of a break, and then I'll come back to the remainder of the plants later on. It's the next morning, and this is actually my last day here of my long weekend. This video seems to be very much a video of updates rather than action, but the weather makes it very difficult to film at the moment. So let's have a look at what we did yesterday. It's still very wet underfoot here, but we have now taken the path in front of the lounge all the way round, nearly to the end here. We're actually going to leave this bit at the moment so that we don't have to walk on mud when we're getting around the side of the garden. And then the other thing that I did yesterday, in amongst the rain showers, was to dig out all of these, and there's Felix, who is unexpectedly out. So the plan for today before I leave is to try and dig out all of this. This is a final update of the work that I got done over the weekend, or the work that I got done today rather. And also I've realised I forgot to actually show you where I planted the last few of the hedge plants. So we've built a little hedge, mainly of hawthorns and a couple of blackthorns, just to separate off this area. We're not quite sure whether we'll leave these plants here long term or whether we'll eventually remove them. But the other areas where we wanted to plant them, the soil was not actually good. As you can see, this area over here was extremely poor because it had been covered for a number of years. And there is one last plant. We planted a spindle down in here just to hopefully fill that gap in a bit. And now let's just wander around to the back garden and have a last look at the work that I did this morning, digging out the paths. So as you can see, we had the work that I did yesterday and the day before, digging out the new path going out from the back door and along to that side of the house. And we now also have a path going all the way along here. Rather interestingly, we have this strange block. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Initially, because of the orientation, I thought it was something to do with drainage from the downspout, but it looks like it's just a single block, or maybe continues over that way. But we'll probably find out more on that when we work in this area. I will probably have to extend this a bit in future just to dig the block out. But that's basically the progress over the weekend. Quite a bit done. The hedge plants planted over there, and quite a bit of new paths dug out. But until next time, I'll just leave you with some general shots. All that remains is for me to thank you for watching and to ask that if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and join us in the comments below to help the channel grow. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.